following is an exclusive presentation of the Ultimate Hoops Podcast Network.
You mentioned, and now correct me if I'm wrong, but you mentioned at one point, I think when I first met you, you said something along the lines of, and I don't want to quote you directly, but you said something along the lines of women's bodies aren't made to play basketball. Would you like to, talk about that a bit more?
Yeah, this was brought to my attention. It took me a while. I think once I got in the WNBA and started understanding why is my body not functioning the way that it's been functioning for so long, trying to figure out what was the issue. And so actually my masseuse, her name is Tina McCrae, she was our team masseuse in Minnesota for the Lynx while I was here. And, I would always ask her questions while I was getting massages, and she would always just say like, "Ooh, girl, like, oh, this and that." And then one day I was just like, "Why is this happening, Tina? Like, why do I feel this way? Or why is this happening?" She was like, "Because your body is not physically designed to plant and run and cut and jump. That's just not the way that your body is structured as a woman." So, and she just kind of was plain, she put it that way. And after she said that, it just kind of really hit me. And I understood that, what is, the biological composition of male versus female and how different we were in so many ways and how you can really see that. So to me, it just was comforting to realize that it wasn't like one is worse or less or worth more or less. It's just understanding that that is not the way I was genetically designed. I wasn't designed to do these crazy things that I've been doing to it over and over and over again.
Do you, how, obviously we want kids playing sports as long as we can, for no other reason than self-esteem and exercise, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How do you look at a seventh grade girl or an eighth grade girl and try to, explain that type of thing to her, being like, hey, women's bodies might not be meant to play basketball. I mean, that's got to be difficult.
No, it's not, because you just give her that information, that she knows that you can do whatever you would like to do. You can totally do anything. Look at what I did. I mean, I played 8 years in the WNBA. I played 4 seasons overseas. I had 8 surgeries on my body, and I still was playing. I could still play today. If anybody wanted to sign me, I could still play on any team I wanted to play on. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to go there. But no, but, so I don't, I'm not saying that, whatever, but just understand your body, listen to your body. As a woman, embrace that, and take the necessary steps it's going to take to prevent things from happening that would happen, that maybe wouldn't happen as frequently to a man as it would to a woman because of the way we're structured. And take pride in that. Take pride in having strength in your core. I had to learn these things along the way after my body was just so abused and beat up. But had I known this, truly understood this, early age in 7th grade, oh my gosh, who knows where you would be. But not saying you'd prevent anything from happening, not saying that you wouldn't have the same frustrations or complications that women have versus men. But at the same time, you would be better off because you have an understanding and knowledge. And also I would say that women, I think we're better shooters than men are, because, I think that we're, more skilled or more disciplined or whatever. It's like, it comes in different ways, but I'm just talking about the actual body physically.
You went to Spain in 2008. What was behind that?
Spain in 2009, January.
Okay.
My agent, so my rookie season, I was really great. My rookie season, I had a very, very awesome, statistics wise. It was just, I was still going on a very, even though I was getting all this, I feel like tension and it was kind of fueling me. And I was so driven and focused and wanting to combat this, and had all this hope and had all this energy bottled up inside of me. So that was really, really propelling my rookie season, my rookie campaign, where I got 6th Woman of the Year and just, did all the things I did there. While we were in Minnesota, this woman started showing up at our practices And she had a shaved head, and she had these really cool, I think they were Adidas, these shoes. They were like rainbow color. They were so cool. And she just was like, she was just cool. Like, and she was just always hanging around. And then I asked Angela Taylor, who was, she was the president of operations at the time. And I asked her, I'm like, who is this woman? And she's like, oh, that's Karma. She's a general manager in Spain for the best team in Spain, Ros Casares. And she's just checking out the WNBA, just seeing, what the WNBA is like, and just asking, kind of shadowing me and seeing the roles and responsibilities of that. I was like, oh, that's really cool. She didn't speak hardly any English. And so she just was watching, and I guess she grew to strong liking to me. Like, she really loved the passion that I played with, and she would see it every day because she'd come to all of our games. So I think she just kind of decided, I want that girl. I want her to play. And they had already had a player they had signed for the whole year, Renika Hodges. And so she just kind of said, I don't care. I want Candice starting to play on Ros Casares. So then I hurt myself. I hyperextended my knee and ended up having to get surgery against the Indiana Fever. And so I ended up being out. So then they changed it from, playing whatever to I'd come in January. So that's kind of how the Spanish deal came about. And it was pretty incredible because they were a EuroLeague team, number one team in Spain. And it was a really, really rich and fulfilling experience for me. I got to play with Delisha Milton-Jones, who was one of my favorite players growing up. She was the only WNBA jersey I ever owned. And so it was really cool.
Talk about 2011. Obviously, that was the first WNBA championship here in Minnesota. Talk about that season as a whole.
Well, that season was such a big turning point in my life, because in 2010 I had torn my Achilles, and it was such a struggle. Like, my life was it was such this, from the outside I don't know what it looked like, but on the inside it was such a mess. It was such a horrendous time for me, that I was, and then the worst thing that could have happened, like, basketball was like kind of like the one thing. Like, in 2010 I played in Greece. We won the European Championship. We won the Euro Cup. We beat all these Russian teams to get it. I was the Euro Cup Player of the Year. I had just gotten from that Greek contract, I was able to get signed to I believe it was Galatasaray. I got a huge deal in Turkey from it that was like twice, almost 3 times the amount of money I was making in Greece, that I got to sign that contract because of how great, I had to earn my way, and I earned my way in 2010 to this big contract. Like, I felt like I was coming to the stage where I was raising my profile, and then I was still dealing with all this madness within the WNBA, but I felt like I was persevering. I was rising above it. And then I tear my Achilles that season, 2010. I'm starting finally. I'm playing well. Me, Simone, and Lindsay Whalen. This is our first year when Lindsay came. Rebecca Brunson's first year. I mean, we were doing great. And then I tear my Achilles, and I just feel like so disconnected. I got to the point where I hit, this was my valley. This was the low valley for me. This was like the trying time. Now I'm like cut off completely. I'm so enraged, and I just have like I just don't even know if I even care to even come back to the WNBA at this point. Like, I really don't. Like, I'm just so over it. So then 2011 happens, and first of all, before 2011 happens, I get a call, the saving grace phone call from Tara Vanderveer and Kate Pay, saying, and it was like they could read my mind. They were like, the sky split in half in the Hallelujah chorus. They say, why don't you come back and finish? I still had a quarter left, because after I went to the WNBA, I went straight to Beijing and was chasing my dreams or whatever. So I never got to finish my last quarter at Stanford. And so they're like, well, why don't you just come back to school and just finish? And I just finally got to come back to school in 2010 and be a student, not be a student athlete, not have any of these whatever. I could, rehab my Achilles. And, at the time you're hearing all these things about, oh, you're not going to be able to come back from an Achilles, and, oh, this is terrible. And I'm sure everyone had me written off. I know everyone did. I kind of felt a little left for dead in a way by a lot of people, but I understand it in retrospect. But so I went back to school, and I just had the most amazing time. Like I just completely, I got reconnected with all of my friends that I had left at the time. They were still there. And I just got so much, and I was so empowered by who I was as a person, as a student, as Candice Wiggins, not the basketball player. And I rehabbed, and I took 4 classes, and they were just so amazing. I was like a totally different student. Before at Stanford, I would be so scared. I would almost get panic attacks when I'd go to class, because I just felt like I was lost in my identity. This time when I went back to school in 2010, I was first, I was like in the front of the class, raising my hand, everything. Teachers couldn't get me to shut up. Like it just was so helpful to my self-esteem, and it boosted my confidence. So by the time it was 2011 and I was rehabbing, I was feeling good. I wasn't feeling necessarily the same. I know I was losing. I lost something. When you tear your Achilles, you lose something. But I gained so much internal strength that my will, especially after all that stuff that I had been through in the WNBA, I really felt an advantage, because I felt like I was killed almost, and I'm back, and now it's like there's nothing mentally. Maybe physically you might have something on advantage over me, but mentally I got all the advantages now. And I just really bred that. And then, we drafted Maya Moore, who was like kind of the exclamation point, because we already had a great core. We had Rebecca Brunson in 2010 and Lindsay Whalen. That was really the start. And then we got Taj, and then we got Maya. It just kind of like Maya and Taj and Brunson and Whalen were different than the old crew that I was around in my first few years. So I just felt like it was like a totally different, and the way that we started that 2011 season was actually in Vegas. I still got invited to USA Basketball. So USA Basketball invited me, and this was really crazy. But my very first time coming back from my Achilles was in April at this USA Basketball trial, and that's Gino was the coach then, and it was crazy because usually you have time to kind of like figure it out, and you have. But I was just thrown out there, the best players in the world. And it was like riding a bike, I got in there, and I was feeling so good about myself, and it kind of just confirmed everything that I had felt about myself, that even like, I wasn't scared of any challenge. And also it was really cool because Maya, Lindsay, Rebecca, and Simone were all there too, and myself. So that kind of was where I believe we started saying, and people started saying, oh, well, look at the links, okay, because everyone there, nobody had 5 players from a team there, and you could see the chemistry that we were having, and it was just a different vibe, and so we I think we carried that really well over into the season started, and then, the season kind of just happened, and it was just everyone had a part in it, and it was really a changing, the culture in some ways, especially on the court, and really changed. And I feel like I felt a very exceptional part of that. One highlight I would say, without dragging that whole season, because the season was kind of a blur for me, because I could not believe that I was recovering the way I was from the Achilles. I mean, by the way people were talking, I thought I was done. Like I just was like, there's no way I'm going to be good anymore. I suck. I might as well, I'm done. And I didn't, and I was good, and I felt good because, like I said, it was very personal, like private victories for me, small, tiny victories. But I would say the big victory was in the playoffs. That playoffs was so special. That was the playoffs when Jesse Ventura came and he visited us, and something in him, I think him coming and visiting us triggered in me too. Like, okay, the world is watching right now. Like they're not really watching still, because nobody really watches the WNBA. Like, they say they do, but no one, but I could tell in this particular moment, people really were watching. They were tuning in to this run, and it meant something, at least to Minnesota, and I in the greater world in some way too. So in the playoffs, we played. It was really, really tough against San Antonio. So we made it to the finals. We made it to the Western Conference Finals for the first time. This is our first playoffs ever, and I've been on this team 4 seasons, and it's just been, this is the, or 3 seasons. So we're playing Phoenix in the Western Conference Finals, and I'll never forget that because I'm just like, okay, this is crazy. Just a year ago, I'm thinking that it's over for me, and now I'm playing against Diana, and Diana was my assignment. And people still remember this, and we went head to head. And I remember I was mic'd on ESPN. They gave me a mic to put in my jersey or whatever. And it was just so great. I just felt like, my spirit just felt so good because I not only had 14 points in that game, but I literally, and I'll never be able to say this again in my life, so I have to say it now. I really literally, as best you can, shut Diana down in that first game, and it was such so my point is that I felt a part of it, every game someone else would shine, Taj would hit the game winner, or Maya would just do that amazing, reverse layup that is still shown today, or Simone would have 50,000 points. But, for me, it was just felt so great in that 2011 season to really have an impact because I really truly believe that it was kind of this, we didn't really know what was going to happen, in the finals. And then just to have that assignment and to rise, it was just, I felt very victorious then.
Okay, slight flashback. 2010, when you ruptured your Achilles, where did that happen?
Madison Square Garden.
Okay. So take us through that moment. What did it feel like? How did it happen?
First of all, it started with me completely shutting down my assignment again because I started developing, as I started getting, we had 4 All-Stars that season. It was a different team now, so I could see that I was still a starter. I was still a part of the scoring, and I would have breakout games where I would get 20 points, stuff like that. But I was more kind of being last option scoring. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna be the defender. Then I don't have to use all my energy scoring all these points. I'm gonna be on people. So that was my assignment, was Cappy Pondexter, and she was at the time. I mean, she still is amazing, but she was it was a huge assignment. So I did a great job. I kept her under 10 points and kept her frustrated. So I was literally chasing her to the last seconds, running. I'm just running in the last seconds. And by the way, side note, I knew that my Achilles was in pain. I knew that I was, it wasn't right. And not to go into complete detail about it, but I just think that it was the medical staff could have done a better job, I think, in the links. I know that Mayo Clinic and everything they have now is amazing, but it kind of just at the beginning goes towards what I was talking about in terms of the investment in our bodies, investment in our health. It wasn't where it should be. Now I would say Minnesota is changed, but I can't say that about other places. I've been to a lot of other teams, and I've been overseas and things like that. I just wish that the health was a concern more so, but it's not. So anyway, so I had a feeling that I was going to, and I actually was very vocal about it, and was pretty much dismissed. And so I actually had so many drugs in my system for pain, to fight pain, that I didn't even really, until it was I didn't even feel anything until I was running, and then I just heard a pop. Felt literally if someone, just imagine someone winding their leg and just kicking as hard as they can on your Achilles, as hard as they can. That's what it feels like. That's what it felt like. And so I just thought somebody kicked me. But Cappy's in front of me, but I'm thinking it's Cappy because she ran by me. I thought Cappy just kicked me really hard, or a ref or somebody kicked me. And then I look around, and there's nobody around me. So I just crumpled to the floor, and I knew then I tore my Achilles. And I remember people saying, and I've been saying it for weeks, I think I'm going to tear my Achilles. My Achilles really hurts. And everyone's, Candace being dramatic, or she's doing this, or, I think, people just they didn't realize how tough I really was, and that I actually understood my body well. And it just, it's another reason why I did get a little frustrated. That's why in 2010 it was really tough for me, because I was very angry about a lot of things. And earlier that year, actually, and I just wanted to say, I played in Greece, and I had hurt my Achilles in Greece. But when I told the people in Greece that I hurt my Achilles is sore, they didn't let me go in the court for 10 days until my Achilles didn't hurt anymore. They said, we don't care. You're not going to lift. You're not going to do this. You're going to And I appreciate that. And we ended up winning the championship. And and they understood that. I wish that, what I'm saying, it was different for me, because I think that it could have prevented. But yeah, it felt like that. It felt like getting kicked. And then it was Madison Square Garden. Everything just kind of like, everybody just knew, I think, that it was something crazy. But it was no better place to go down. Are you one of the 99% of basketball players who never played professional basketball? Are you tired of trying to live your hoop dreams in the same old rec basketball leagues? At Ultimate Hoops, we believe that all basketball players should be treated like a professional. And with Ultimate Hoops League, we have completely revolutionized recreational basketball. With the Ultimate Hoops League, you'll get full online stats for every game, including box scores, videos, photos, power rankings, and your own personal profile that tracks your stats for your entire career. And you can compare your stats with the thousands of other Ultimate Hoops players across the US and Canada. Most Ultimate Hoops leagues cost under $100 a season, which includes 8 regular season games played on Lifetime Fitness's professional quality basketball courts. No matter what your skill level is, the Ultimate Hoops League is the place to take your talents to. Join the largest recreational basketball league in America, the Ultimate Hoops League, by going to uhlife.com to get started.
You said drugs in your system. Are you on painkillers or what?
No
I'm
illegal drugs.
Well,
yeah.
or I guess I didn't know if you get cortisone injections or all that stuff. I don't know the nuances of that.
No, just good old ibuprofen. And it was really kind of scary at how I was treated. But basically, I was given 2 packs of 400 milligrams, so 800 milligrams of ibuprofen every 2 hours. So 11 a.m., 1 p.m., 3 p.m., 5 p.m., 7 p.m. I didn't take my 5 and 7 p.m. because by 2400, I was just like, this is nuts. And I was frustrated then. But again, it's just like in the WNBA, it's like it is what it is, and you just have to just deal with it. And unfortunately, that was the result of what happened when you can't feel your body.
This beginning, middle, end of the season?
This was in July-ish, so I would say it's like mid. It was like mid. It was early mid. Like it was the period in between the very beginning and the very middle. Maybe 10 games into the season, maybe.
Okay.
We were on a long road trip.
Let me ask you this. So something in Minnesota is kind of goes around, and is after Cleveland won the championship, it became now Minnesota is the longest city or state that doesn't have a championship, since 1991. This is the longest running state. Now, the Lynx have won 3 titles in the last 5 years or 6 years or whatever it is. How does that make you feel as somebody who was a part of that team when the people of Minnesota don't recognize the Lynx championships as a quote-unquote championship?
Well, it's weird because anywhere I go, it seems like people do recognize the Lynx, but it's, I don't know. There's this disconnect. I think a lot of times it's frustrating, but I think a lot of times people don't have this connection to, but I say that, but then I'm like, there's so many people that have respect for the Lynx. Like, that's why it's kind of confusing. But then you go to the mall, right? You go to the mall in Minnesota, and this is one of my favorite pastimes to do while I'm here, is go to the mall and you see, and then you look, and then because I'm actually looking now, I'm like, they better be selling Lynx stuff in the malls, right? So I go and you see all this Timberwolves, you see Rubio, Wiggins, you see all that, and then you don't see any Lynx, or maybe you see one little Lynx thing, and then you see the Twins, and you see that, and then there's nothing that's where I feel like is the disconnect, and then you go to another store. I go to a hat store, and then you see all these hats, these Minnesota hats, and then there's no Lynx hat, there's no, whatever hat, no Maya Moore jersey, no nothing. And so that's where I think it bothers me more, because the people in the city, I feel like they know, but I just think that there's ways to build that bridge to familiarize, fans with the team. And I just think that those steps are not being taken. And I think that probably would frustrate me more than hearing that, because people know, people respect, and people understand. When you say Lynx in Minnesota, people are like, male, female, old, young, they know who the Lynx are. And I would put an asterisk by that 2015 championship, because the Lynx they know if we would have made it past the Eastern Conference Finals and made it to the finals, it would have been the New York Liberty and the Lynx. We would have had home court advantage. It would have been a different. So let's put a little asterisk by that 2015 title.
Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Candid with Candice Wiggins. Remember, you can subscribe to the Ultimate Hoops Podcast Network on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud, and listen and download other podcasts like The Wild Card with Luke Hanlon, Recreation Nation with Reed Nelson, The Dream League Insider, and the Short Corner Podcast. Thanks to Ultimate Hoops and Lifetime Fitness, who made this all possible. If you want to learn more about Ultimate Hoops and all of our basketball products, go to uhlife.com. We'll be back next week with an all-new episode of Candid with Candice Wiggins.